Okay, hi, hello. In today's video, I will be doing a video about my version of the living dolls biology. I call it dollology. That is the word I will be using just for like how they're built and constructed. I think it's a funny pun, and yeah, I think it's a good pun, so we're using it. For context, I made my own living doll race for D&D for Stella that was New Capenna specific, but I didn't like that it was New Capenna specific. I wanted to broaden it so more people could use it better. I am going to take down what I did make for it and rewrite it. But to do that, I wanted to first make a video basically explaining this. Also, so if any of you guys want to make a doll character, you can go ahead and do it. And before I start, the art in the background is of the two doll characters I have made, Stella and Bella. I gave them both dog names because Stella, I liked Stella, and then I got told it was a dog name, and then Bella's just a dog name. I thought it was funny, they both had dog names. There's Stella. Stella is the one with the red hair, and Bella is the one with the blue hair, and respectively. They're supposed to be opposites of themselves, and I'll go into that. The concept of a doll, it needs magic. That is the one rule that exists still within a doll existing. There has to be magic because there's no other way for a living doll to exist without some sort of magic of this type. Like obviously like paranormal, but like when magic, I mean there has to be necromancy magic. So for the basic construct of a doll, which has never changed, is that one of the most necessary things that one is needed, and editing Mia will hopefully listen through the whole video and pop it up here because I made diagrams, is the string, the soul string, which I made green for this example. I recreated the perfect man drawing but in doll form because I thought that would be a more fun diagram. So for this diagram, as you can see, there is a stringing that goes along the whole body of the doll. This is a basic version of a stringing for a normal ball joint doll. For the ones that do have strings, it's not. The idea that I'm coming across is the inside, the green, is the soul. One thing that is different from most ball jointed dolls is all dolls have a ball joint that goes to their ears, or they can move their ears, because most of them have pointy ears. In my mind, at least, a lot of them do. They don't have to. They can also be built as different braces. So if you wanted to make a doll that was based off of a tabaxi, you could. Or a bunny, you could. Anything is on the table for that, but this is the basics construct. Along with that is, in any lore, like any like magic that you put them in, their outer shell is significantly, it's not porcelain. It's not delicate. It's a decently rough-upable material because I wanted to balance them out because dolls are not strong. They have no muscles. There's no way for them to be strong. They're only as strong as the soul will let them be, and even then, the soul strength is more of a metaphorical thing than a physical thing. I could see it being a physical thing, but as a general rule, dolls are like neutral to weak in strength. To make up for the fact that they have no strength, they're very durable. The best way I can describe it is imagine there's like the stuff they make slides in that plastic out the playground. That is the material. That's the roughness, the toughness of the material. It's not invincible per se. I do imagine it to be a little bit more heat-proof than plastic because I think it's more of like a rock, but that's the hardness. But it can take a good beating, essentially, so that there is something to help protect them from just immediately dying. But they can still get cracked. They're just a rougher material than like porcelain. Another thing is that a lot of people who do get turned into dolls, it's not a choice. That's another thing. A lot about the lore. No. Along with that, there are exceptions to this rule, like Bella La Luna, which is her full name, is I made her. Because she's the opposite of Stella, sun, moon. Because Stella's last name is La Sol, And Luna's name is La Luna because I know it's broken Spanish, but I only speak broken Spanish. So that's why their names are like that, because they're supposed to be opposites. But Bella is supposed to be, she became a doll of her own consent because she was dying of a chronic disease and it was the only way for her to continue living. I haven't figured out what disease yet, but a disease that was going to kill her. Or be like really sufferable, and it would be easier to just be a doll. So she made the choice to find somebody and undergo that process. On the other hand, Stella was turned into a doll by force. Her backstory is that the night she got married to her fiance murdered her and turned her into a doll to sell for money. That's what happened to Stella. But it was not by her own choosing. This is how a lot of dolls are made, but there can be exceptions to that rule. You just have to think of why would somebody choose to put themselves in this situation. Along with that, dolls don't have a lifespan. They die if they get killed, and that's about it. They don't age. They don't have any health problems because they are just the soul. They can't be turned into anything. They can't be affected by any diseases or they can't be affected by poison. I take that back. But they can't be affected by diseases because they don't have anything to be diseased. But they can be affected by poison, but it has to come into contact with the soul string for it to do any effect. Because essentially the outside, like their bodies, like the doll part is a shell to the inside, which is their soul. And their soul can be transferred from body to body if a body is broken. It's just someone has to know how to handle the string to restring it into a new body. The next model I made was for any sort of animal like doll, like what their feet would look like, because that's the only thing that'd be different stringing wise. So that's what the string would look like in an animal leg. And then for the face, because I wanted to go into detail, I did, but I didn't want to go into more detail for the face. So for the face, this is the basic face for any doll, no matter what they look like. Humanoid, not humanoid, however, is that they have an S-ring. Every ball joint doll has a little S-ring inside of it that holds all the string together. And all dolls have the ability to close their eyes, because that would just be weird if they couldn't close their eyes. I wouldn't know. So they can close and open their eyes. There's a little... It's like the baby dolls that can flip upside down, but their eyes, they can close or open their eyes at will. But that's how their eyes work, no matter what. Their ears, they have the bit of the soul string that's wrapped around the S ring that's connected. That is connected to the ears, that allow the ears to move and be connected to the rest of the soul. Why they're not connected to the eyes are just apart. I'm just bullshitting that their soul is still connected to the eyes, because I couldn't figure out a decent, happy way for that to work. But they can control their eyes at will. Their eye color matches their soul color, and their eyes tend to be multicolored. Stella's eyes are purple and light blue. Bella's eyes are green and blue, because that's the color of their souls. And there's no color code for their souls, but it's something to keep in mind. Of their eye color, that is the color of their soul. But yeah, that is something else like to keep in mind about these guys, is that a lot of other things is like, again, like how they died. Because Stella doesn't remember anything, because when she got turned into a doll, her memories got taken away from her. Bella actually remembers her life before this and understands why she made the choice she did and is okay with it, and is actually pretty okay with it, while Stella, on the other hand, is not happy about being a doll for a lot of her story. She's grieving herself, she's grieving what she could have remembered, while Luna... Okay, I don't know why I like Bella's last name more, but that's why. I did draw them together. I thought it was a cute picture because it kind of reminded me of Sailor Moon, like with the flowers and whatever in the intro, and like them like laying Magical Girl. I call it Magical Girl naked, but it's not really naked. It's like their outlines. But I wasn't gonna make a Magical Girl naked because this drawing's for YouTube. But it's a good example of like a contrast, because I did want to make two examples. An example of a character that is different from Stella, because Stella, yes, was the reason why I even created this race, but I wanted there to be, say, hey, you can break these rules, you just have to make sense of it as to why these rules are broken. There's also why Stella isn't colored like an actual human per se. She is ridiculously pale, but that is because she was based off of porcelain dolls, and it's because when her shell essentially was built, it wasn't built with looking like her. It was built in mind of looking like an elf, because the person who, like, her fiance is a half elf who is elf racist, who not elf like racist towards elves, but idolizes elves, and basically wanted to make Stella into an elf, and not even a love, but to be turned into an elf to go to be a servant for a higher class elf family. So that's why Stella's doll looks nothing like how she looked. That's also why Stella's doll has red hair, because human Stella does not have red hair. But Stella's fiance had red hair, and she wanted to imprint that onto Stella. While Bella actually looks just like the doll version of her human self, or her half-elf self, basically, with slightly longer ears. That's why I gave her a more human, like an actual real human being coloring, because I wanted it to show that this is not more of a person, but it's supposed to look like a person, and not a caricature of a perfect person, which is what Stella is, because Stella wasn't made necessarily to look like herself or be a person. She was created to be a servant. But yeah, generally, there are a few things you do need to consider if you're going to make your own doll character, which the big one is size. So depending on the size or the making of a doll is a soul, a sentient enough soul. So you can't make a doll out of a cockroach or something, but something like a dog or a rabbit would work, or a lizard. Just something that's sentient enough, all the way up to a human or elf or whatever. You need an artisan who knows how to make the doll's body, and you need a necromancer who knows how to make the soul, or the soul string, because the soul string is a soul that is crafted handcrafted into this item. And so the reason that a doll is effectively immortal is because their soul gets turned into an item. Obviously, if you attack the soul, or you kill the soul, or take enough damage, the soul will die, and that'll be it. But now it's made the doll where they can't technically die unless their body, like their shell with their soul, can physically travel to an underworld to pass on. That is the only way for them to die, technically. Or not die, but pass on. Because they can still die, but that's it. They just cut off, like their consciousness just stops. Because that's it, because that was their soul. So you need to find an artisan. The material that dolls are made out of, like I said, it's a hardness, but it's also an expensive material. So depending on like the doll's size and like height, like how much carving is like in them, like it depends on how expensive they were to make. So it just depends. So like Stella, for example, is 4 feet tall. She wasn't made with a lot of money. She was made with a little bit of money in mind, but not a lot. While Bella is slightly bigger by 5 inches, she isn't 7 feet tall or anything crazy. She's still pretty little, and she's much littler than she was in her past life, because it's expensive to make a taller doll. It's also expensive if you want to make a plus size doll. It's way more expensive. Is that depending on, they can be as little or as large. They can also be plus sized. It's just you have to keep in mind of how, because of the material's expensive, how rich the person who's like commissioning the doll's size is. So a doll that would be really tall would be made by someone who's really expensive. In contrast, a doll that's on the smaller side, like 3 or 4 feet tall, might be made by someone who still has money, but not as insane amount of money to make a 7-foot tall doll. Another thing is you have to find, again, a necromancer who knows how to do it, and then the necromancer and the artisan have to work together to string the soul in the body, and then the soul is in the body and the doll is alive. But yeah, anything goes for that. It's just those are the basic rules. They can be anything in the eyes of the beholder of whatever wanting to be paid for. There is another doll, Lucy, that my friend made who's a rabbit, and they asked me if that was okay, and I was like, yeah, as long as you think an artisan can craft and carve it out of whatever material it's made out of, that's how that works. And as long as they're rough enough material, but yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. This is my dollology video. If you guys want more videos like this is the only species I've ever made. Feel free to use it, by the way. I forgot to mention that. If you guys want to make your own characters with this formatting. But yeah, this is just, if you guys want more videos like these, because I do have ideas for other fantasy races or species or whatever, but they have to be more fleshed out. Like, I had to sit down and think about dollology for 2 days. And I still couldn't figure out what the material they're made out of is. That's not playground plastic, because that's all I can think of is playground plastic. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I know this was a bit of a ramble, and it's a bit longer than most of my videos, but I really thank you guys for sticking around. I had a lot of fun making this, and I had a lot of fun thinking, like, what if this? What if that? What if this and that happened? Or what about this? And oh, what if there was a doll that didn't have a Stella-like story? What if it's completely different? So I could have thought of every possibility that is in that box of rules. But yeah, as long as you at least consider some of the rules, I don't really go for it. Go crazy, design whatever you want. Dolls can have multiple arms, multiple legs, anything, as long as they have a soul string and stuff, and you think about like their size comparative to like wealth of like the person. I guess the person who made them, because Stella's doesn't have no money, but her people do. So yeah, that's all I have for today's video. Thank you guys so much for hearing me ramble about dollology, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.